Hello, hello, my friends. It's Chat with Matt. It's episode 22, I believe. It's the 5th of June, 2019. Welcome. Namaste. Hello, how are you? Look, if I'm quick, I'll click on that and that'll get me to where I want to go. Oh, no, it didn't. Oh, there's the breaths.
Hello, my friends.
Shit. Hang on.
Episode 22, I believe it's
Negative feedback. Let's just go back. Right, it's all starting. I'm off to a great start here. We're going to take a couple of breaths. And I've also need to find myself through Facebook to the page where the questions are written for where I'm starting. Hello, Sister Emily Rose. The bells of serenity are donging. So let's take a couple of breaths because obviously I'm out to lunch before I've even got started. Awesome. So I read a great article actually that Facebook led me to. Facebook's not as bad as I make out sometimes. There are some amazing things that come through there. It's just a matter of holding an intention that you find those amazing things quickly and don't spend too much of your precious time scrolling that feed, looking at a load of rubbish. But anyway, yesterday, maybe I'm going to turn the volume down on this thing. Yesterday, I just happened upon an article that basically was scientifically, they've done studies now to show how that deep breath, especially a deep breath with a ratio of shorter inhalation to exhalation, something we do in yoga quite frequently, set a ratio 4 to 8, whatever it might be, and also we put in pauses as well, kumbhaka, to, I've got a bit of throb in my throat, to hold the breath in between. But anyway, the important thing is the ratio between inhalation to exhalation, with the exhalation being longer, has actually now been scientifically proven to stimulate the vagus nerve to reduce the stress response, to turn off fight and flight, to basically calm the heart and to calm the stress response. So scientific proof of something that's been in the yogic text for over 5,000 years. But it's good, right? It's good that more of society can catch on to how we can, in this article it was said, how to hack the vagus nerve to create peace and calm in your life, to create more clarity, to make better decisions, and there was all these studies with business people and sports people and how they use this breathing ratio to calm their stress response and put them into a much better state to make good decisions and to function better, right? To function better. So setting your little timer like I've got here and it bells every half an hour and doing that, taking 2 nice deep breaths, is a fantastic way to improve your performance and thus your happiness throughout the day, right? Turning off the stress response. And then it suggested in that article, the study they did was people who are about to complete a difficult task like an examination or an interview or perhaps a live stream, spend 2 minutes doing it. So that's basically 10 breaths. So instead of 2 breaths, it's 10 breaths. If you do that before you go into anything difficult, you are much more likely to perform well. You're much more likely to perform well. That's what the study was showing, and they'd done it in a range of different context to prove that it wasn't just situational, that it really was something that worked across the board with multiple disciplines and multiple situations and people, right? So here we are, it's Chat with Matt. We've got half an hour. I've probably just wasted 3 minutes. Well, it's not wasted. That's not wasted, Matthew, talking about breathing. But we've got a bunch of questions to answer. Here we go. Facebook wasn't giving it to me for a little while, but now it is. Awesome. So the first question that I have here is from Sister Robin, who has written, and I will attempt to read it eloquently and clearly. I'll be working, so I'll be listening to the replay, but I would love some guidance around maintaining momentum. A real challenge I have A real challenge I have is staying committed to what I know best serves me. Quick to start, slow to finish. I suspect this comes from a place of low self-worth, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Feeling good at the moment about setting boundaries well and using the breath, interesting, to release, and I would love to keep building on this empowered experience. I'd love to keep building momentum around this empowered experience. Thank you. So awesome. Yeah, I do have a lot of things to say about why we might lose momentum, or why we have trouble maintaining momentum, or why we have trouble maintaining any commitment to something that's really serving us, right? What tends to happen, Robin, is as we progress with something that's really serving us, our vibration starts to rise. We actually start feeling good about ourselves, right? Which, as you alluded to, has got something to do with our low self-worth template. Because as we start feeling good about ourselves, we trigger ourselves with the low self-worth template. So vibrations arise from within us to say, hang on, you're not supposed to be feeling worthy about yourself. Don't you remember what happened? No, you don't actually remember what happened because it's past life stuff. But the point is, there's vibrations in your field that think that it's much safer for you to stay small and unworthy, right? To stay hidden and not out there, not radiating your light, not moving through the world with momentum and efficiency or effectiveness. So there's these vibrations that come up to protest. So that's basically what erodes our momentum, is we start feeling better and better about ourselves as we engage in this habit, and then slowly but surely, or perhaps not slowly but surely, sometimes it hits us like a wave or a wall, vibrations come in to dampen that enthusiasm, and it becomes a matter of what we allow, where we allow our attention to go. It really helps if you know what's happening, right? So because quite often it comes quite disguised. We don't really realize that what's arising to erode our momentum is just a protest of old stuff from past life that doesn't align with what we are choosing. I really don't like the way this camera sometimes flicks around with its exposure. But anyway, I'll cope with being blown out for now in the light. So that's it. Well, maybe not all of it, but it's a good start, right? So first of all, understand that your momentum gets eroded by resistance arising from within you, which is basically trying to protect you from something that you feel is dangerous, but it's not really dangerous. It's only what's been left in your field from a different time, space, and dimension where you got heavily persecuted for being more than what society was wanting you to be. E.g., the authoritarian rule didn't want you to feel empowered. It wanted you to feel meek and mild. And if you started feeling empowered, then you got squashed. Or worse, right? Depending on how empowered you chose to be or how visible you chose to be in your empowerment. Anyway, so it's a matter of, to keep this building on, this momentum building, it's a matter of understanding that that's the process that's occurring, and to hold a commitment to keep stepping through, breathing through what you are releasing with that understanding. And with compassion, right? Understanding that it doesn't feel good. The fear is real, right? The fear is real. The reason for the fear isn't real. That's the difference, right? So the fear that you're feeling is very real, right? Your body reacts to that fear as if there's a friggin' lion in the room, but there isn't. And so you have to remember and remind yourself that the fear response is not appropriate, but it's real. And not to make yourself wrong for having it, but to choose to opt out of it by doing exactly what we opened this call with, breathing deep, using your intention, reminding yourself, right? Hacking your mentality and your biology to reduce stress so that you can keep choosing in empowered ways and keep the momentum rolling in the direction that you are choosing, right? To be empowered enough to keep moving in the direction you are choosing, and not to be at the whim of vibrations that are coming out of your past, which is trying to keep you stuck in that past. I need some more lemon juice. Hopefully that helps. There's an addendum to this, so let me click on this. So Sister Luna wrote in, Robin, I'm with you there. It's caused so much pain and difficulty for me in my life. Just lately, I managed to start something I wanted to do and finish it and post it. But now I'm a bit of a mess. I got really tense and a bit loopy in the process. I had posted that I was doing this thing and I would be posting it the next day. In brackets, I did that for accountability purposes, so then I had to complete it. Accountability definitely helps a lot to get things done. It's harder when there's no immediate pressing need or reason to get the things done. Okay, great. So, understanding here that Luna's used an accountability method to put some real fire behind her because she didn't want to disappoint people, right? So she's used basically a fear-based tactic to actually serve her here, because even though it was hard for her to get through the process of doing what she said she was going to do, ultimately, and she's feeling a bit, quote unquote, loopy in the process, tense and loopy in the process, because she's basically triggered a whole heap of fear. She's triggered fear on multiple levels here. She's triggered fear about showing up and doing the thing, and she's also triggered fear about not showing up and doing the thing, right? Because she's told everyone that she would. So she's going to be basically between the rock and the hard place in order to get things done. You don't have to do things that way, but a lot of us do respond well to putting something sharp behind us so that we don't rest back, right? Making a reason, like accountability, like coming out and saying, I am actually going to do this, because we know that if we don't tell someone we're going to do it, that we're likely to opt out, because when it starts getting uncomfortable, we just want to back off. Emotionally, we say, oh, this is too unkind, right? This is not compassionate to push myself through this. I feel terrible. I need to rest, right? Unfortunately, it's not compassionate to let yourself off the hook every time and rest every time it starts feeling uncomfortable, because you are prolonging your pain, right? It's like I use the analogy of the mortgage payments, because most of us, or many of us, have got mortgages, and we understand that if you spend the whole 30 years paying back your mortgage, you pay back about 2.5 times interest of what you actually borrowed, right? So you're paying a huge amount of money back. If you pay your mortgage back in 10 years, the amount of interest that you pay is so much greatly reduced, it's almost farcical. Unfortunately, to pay it back in 10 years requires a lot more pain in the immediate time, right? You have to actually fork out your principal a lot more quickly, and of course some of us just can't afford that, so we end up having to go through the painful process of prolonging our discomfort of paying the bank a huge amount of interest. But the point is to get the idea that if you pay back, or if you get over your resistance more quickly, while it's more intense at the time, it's actually a lesser quantity of pain, right? It's a much less quantity of pain that you pay over the longer period if you're willing to do it more quickly. So it's intense, but there's less discomfort overall if you're willing to just push through it. Now, of course, there are limits, and it requires some level of balance. It's not about just pushing headlong into everything, because there is a danger that we will trip out, loop out, fall apart, have a meltdown, breakdown, whatever. Sometimes meltdown, breakdowns are not a bad thing, right? Sometimes they do actually lead to good outcomes, even though they can be a bit scary for ourselves and everyone around us. Depends on the intensity. But so a lot of people, might judge what Luna's written and said, oh, that's terrible to use fear to make yourself do something. But actually, I would commend Luna for doing that in this case, right, as it feels right now, because I'm sure actually getting the thing done that she didn't want to, she was struggling to do, is actually going to serve her. Hey, Sister Sari, how are you? Late in the night, your time, right? 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or something like that. Anyways, not judging, just noticing. I'm the world clock, I see everyone in time zones. Just from having to schedule people. 2:44, there you go. So I knew it was... I was up late last night, but not nearly that late. I was up after midnight, which is late for me, and I paid for it this morning, dragging my sorry ass out of bed to do my meditation. But I did it, right? Even though I didn't, quote unquote, want to at the time. Was that compassionate? Should I have let myself sleep? I know that if I just let myself sleep, yeah, great. That's nice to let myself... Sari's listening to her in her sleep. But yeah, getting up and maintaining a routine is worth it, in my opinion. Again, sometimes it requires a little bit of force, and you might go, oh, that's not kind, you got to bed late, you should have let yourself sleep. But then I break a routine that is serving me. And the meditation this morning was divine, even though I didn't feel like getting out of bed. I thought maybe I should just sleep for an extra hour and not do my meditation, but that wouldn't have served me, right? I know in hindsight it wouldn't have served me, but there we go. At the moment where we've got the option, it's definitely easy to opt out in terms of emotional or physical comfort. Hey, Sister Haley, it's very easy to opt out for the physical or emotional comfort, and it's very easy to justify it, saying that I'm being compassionate, I'm being kind, this is loving, this is self-love, right? To do what feels good. Not always, right? Not always. Sometimes it's very loving to maintain the discipline to push through the emotional resistance and actually do something that you're scared of doing or resistant to doing or doesn't feel comfortable to do in any way, whether it's getting out of bed to do your meditation even though you're tired, or whether it's following through and actually finishing something and posting it online even though it's stirring up a whole bunch of your resistance and you're going a bit tense or loopy in the process. That tense or loopiness, that resistance to actually fulfilling something that you know is going to serve you, producing something and putting it online, in the case of Luna here, no doubt an MP3 or an energy process, is going to serve her greatly to move through the resistance to doing that. Because as she's moved through the resistance to doing it and has now posted it, then she's going to feel much better about herself and see that the fear was not nearly as warranted as she might have thought, right? All of the tension and the loopiness about getting judged or not doing a good enough job is probably going to be eroded because undoubtedly we have much better outcomes than we think we're going to have. Hola, Sister Kelly, how are you? No doubt from somewhere in Spanish-speaking area. Maybe. Or not, or just choosing. Why not? Anyway, so awesome, Sister Luna. Very, very happy that you managed. And accountability is a great tool that we can use. It's a great tool for us to use to push through stuff that we find or we know we have resistance to doing. Because the only way generally to overcome that resistance is to keep doing something despite the resistance until it becomes very obvious that the resistance is unwarranted, right? That it is actually not scary or dangerous or whatever for us to do that thing that at first feels like death on a stick, right? It takes time though. As I just shared in a group, I still feel nervous before I get out of, I'm glad you're in Spanish-speaking Austin, Kelly. But as I was about to say, I still feel nervous about getting on and doing these live streams on this public page, right, on my Mantara public page, because for years I've done a lot of live streaming, but it's always been in closed groups where I feel, where I've got control over the audience and it feels a lot safer. So, I'm on to episode 22 weeks in a row of doing this live stream on this group. And still, before I go live, I feel some nervousness, right? It's not warranted. I know it's not warranted, but it's still there. So awesome. I'm still slowly eroding away vibrations of resistance to being more publicly seen, which is great, right? Which is great. It's exactly what I want to do. I'd be concerned if it was all eroded away because I still don't feel confident to do it in bigger ways. And I know I'm being called to do this in bigger and bigger ways. I'm being called to be more and more authentic, more and more transparent, more and more open and vulnerable and share deeper truths with a wider audience. And so that's requiring me to go through a process, a practice of clearing away, eroding away the resistances to doing that, because I can't go from woe to go. You can't expect to come out of the closet and next thing be on a stage in front of 4,000 people and do it in any way, shape or form naturally. You have to build up, right? You have to build up. So you have to start somewhere with something that you can manage, even though it's uncomfortable for you to manage that. Emily Rose. So for me, Matt, I'm seeing I can't do the accountability thing to motivate me. I've tried it a few times. a few times in your group and still haven't shown up, the resistance to doing so much stronger than, of course, I have more layers to let go of, feeling flaky, etc. I have a strong habit of to not do what I want to do, even when I know I can do it. I go frozen in my power center. So I guess I like the response for Robin. Breathe and just keep choosing to do it. At a point, I just will. Yeah, well, you've got a very interesting past, Sister M. You have snubbed your nose at accountability for a long time, right? You've almost made it, there's a part of your personality that has defined itself around the idea of choosing not to do what you've been told to do, right? You've done it with the medical profession for decades, right? As an example. So there's part of you that defines yourself about not being accountable. So of course accountability doesn't work for you because you've gone out of your way to say that I'm not going to be held accountable to authority, and that's just even telling a friend that you're going to do something. There's almost a part of you that if you tell someone you're going to do something, you almost want to prove that you're strong enough that you don't need to do it now, right? So it doesn't work for you. So that's interesting, and it's probably something that will clear over time, this need to prove yourself by snubbing authority, right? Which might just be a friend that you've told that you're going to do something. Yeah, sorry, Haley. I know it's kind of just one of those sayings I have, death on a stick. It's a what is it, right? It's a bit of a mind bend. But anyway, I will get on to the rest of your question in a moment. Yeah, everyone's different, of course, and for some people, then accountability actually has the opposite effect for you because it conjures a desire for you to snub your nose at it and prove that you're stronger than that. Unfortunately, you're biting your nose off to spite your face, but that's just something you need to deal with, and it's no point to actually go head on against this accountability thing, but to slowly and surely, as you said, erode it away by choosing to be compassionate, but also choosing to really commit to yourself, right? You don't need to be accountable to someone else because obviously that has this authoritarian thing, but it is going to serve you to get much more dedicated and devoted to who you are, to your higher self, basically. What would serve you is to really form a stronger bond with your higher self, thus that you are not willing to go against what you know is serving you out of a real space of love for who you are and what you stand for. It's a process, but I know you can get there, and you are getting there, and you're just having to work through it. So awesome. Thank you for adding that and allowing me to expose your interesting traits on this live stream. Anyway, do you ever breathe? This is from Haley. Do you ever use breath, sound, movement, or question mark to help move through or transmute the resistance? Yes, definitely. I use all of that, right? I definitely use my breath consistently to move through my resistance to doing stuff. As soon as I start feeling myself contract in the fear of having to do something, or the resistance to having to do something, or the resentment to having to do something, right? I've quite often, one of my stuff is I would much prefer to have someone doing a lot of the background stuff, right? A lot of the back office stuff in my quote unquote business at the moment, including, having to write email replies to people and the technical stuff. I love serving. I love talking. I love facilitating transformation. I don't so much like marketing and accounts and, all of the, setting up appointments and all of the stuff that goes into running my business, which takes more time than actually what I spend facilitating. That's the truth of it, right? So now I've got this thing going on where I'm still haven't made the big choice to actually employ someone to do all this stuff for me, because I'm running in my own lack mentality that I can't afford to do that, right? But it's probably holding me back from earning a lot more money. That's another story. But the point is now I've chosen to do a lot of this back end stuff, right? Through my own choice. And now I feel resentful towards myself for making myself do that. And I'm running this story. It's very easy to run a story, this self-sabotaging story, that I shouldn't be doing this stuff. I've chosen to do it, right? My choice to do it. And then now this story's going on in my head. Oh, someone else should be doing this for me. That's not actually helping me. So when I feel that story arise, I have a choice to start breathing my way through that and to release that and to realign myself with getting it done as effectively and efficiently as possible, so I don't draw out the pain of sitting here having to do what I quote unquote don't want to do. So breath is important, movement is important, exercise. I find that I do so much better when I actually hold myself accountable to going to the gym or going for my walk every day, one or the other, depending on the weather, depending on my mood, depending on what serves me. I do use sound, light language, etc. to move through this stuff. I do use hydration, drinking, maintaining my health, monitoring myself in many ways to move through resistances in an empowered way. But the breath is the first one, right? The breath is the first one. And movement, of course, can be just every time my bell rings every half an hour and I get up. I get up most of the time, not all the time. Sometimes I do just sit here, take my 2 breaths, keep going because I'm in the middle of something. But quite often what I will do is also just get up out of my seat and spend another 30 seconds shaking or jumping or just moving, right? Stretching to keep my body fluid, because otherwise I can sit in this freaking chair for like 3 hours in a go, and that's not good, quote unquote, for my comfort, my happiness, my health in any way, shape or form. So yeah, movement's a big one. Right, I've got another question here from Ms. Jen Burns, who's got a interesting question. How much time have I got? Oh my God. About 4 minutes. So anyway, let's see if I can get the question read at least. I'm having a chat with my ex tonight. We haven't talked in about a month since we stopped our romantic connection. The reason I asked to chat with him is we will both be at the same small sensual dance festival this weekend. It sounds like the perfect storm, doesn't it, my friends? Oh my goodness, Jen. So we'll both be this weekend. My intention is to create an open communication so that we both feel that we can fully be ourselves without worrying about the ambiguity of where other person is coming from. And I'm a little concerned about the sensual space that is there that could potentially cause backsliding and jealousy. I find myself a little unsure about how to balance this idea of taking things moment by moment when there's physical attraction that may not be the best option, and setting expectations, boundaries ahead of time. Thoughts? Yeah, it's a difficult one. Those are my thoughts, Jen. Someone else wrote a reply. M's pitched in there. I'm not going to read that right now because that will put me off, but I will read it in a moment, Sister M. Yeah, so thoughts are, it is going to be difficult. Thoughts are, it's going to be an awesome opportunity for growth for both you and him. Thoughts are, you can't really set strong boundaries, but you can set expectations ahead of time. Basically, you both have to decide that you're both okay with whatever goes down or not, or what does go down, or, whether you're going to allow jealousy to become an issue or whether you are going to allow your own attraction for each other to become an issue. It's very difficult to decide how this thing is going to play out because you understand already that the emotions are going to be high. You have set yourself an interesting challenge to both go to this in the situation that you're in if you don't want to be in romantic relationship, and yet you still probably do have strong physical urges towards each other. So that's difficult. I can't really gloss over that. Awesome, Em. I'm glad I've helped you see all about your rebel and how it doesn't actually always serve you, although it has served you in some ways. It's a matter of taming the rebel and using her in an empowered way. and I will read the rest, but if I lose my track with Jen, I'm not going to give her anything. So, first and foremost, this chat you're having tonight on the phone, you want it to be as open and honest as possible, Jen. You don't want to skirt around the issues. You basically need to spit it out. What you are worried about. You're both going to this festival. You're worried about jealousy. You're worried about perhaps sliding back into relationship with each other when you've decided that that's not going to happen. You have to be willing to state what you feel is for your best. E.g., if you feel it's for your best that you don't end up, quote unquote, kissing him or, allowing emotions to flow into actions, even though you might end up dancing with each other or not or whatever, right? You have to be willing to speak about it now, and then also be willing to reassess as time progresses, because it's all very well for you to set intentions now, but at the time, perhaps it won't serve you. I know it's a difficult one because you're dancing between what you think is going to serve you, right, from your own mentalizations of the situation that you're in and what you don't want to have happen. You're trying to protect yourself from getting hurt here, but you also need to be willing to be open to what is best going to serve you from the spiritual perspective, right? And perhaps a little bit of pain emotionally in this is not the worst thing that could happen, right? It is whatever it's going to happen. It's a steep learning curve. You're playing on a slippery slope, and it's very easy to slip and end up in the mud or the river or whatever's at the bottom of that slippery slope. So awesome, good on you for putting yourself in a situation where there, no doubt, in whatever occurs is going to be great learning, right? Whatever occurs, it doesn't necessarily need to be uncomfortable learning, but it might be. It might be fantastic, but still it will be great learning. I'm just talking about what's going on for you, Jen, as I'm coming to the end of this. And I'm running out of time. Well, theoretically, I have run out of time. The bells of beyond. The bells of beyond. That's actually Midnight Oil. Bells and horns from the back of Beyond is a Midnight Oil track from Red Sails in the Sunset. My sort of adolescence, youth coming out here. However, so yeah, whatever happens, Jen, it is going to be an awesome opportunity for your growth. I basically spat it out a moment ago. It's probably best you watch it in replay because I need to get off this call to maintain my intention of maintaining these things in around about 30 minutes. So we are holding space for you, Jen. Have a great conversation tonight about it. Please be willing to be open and honest and forthright, and at the same time be open to listening and not just fixed in your viewpoints of how it has to be and how it should be, but open it up for discussion so that you can come to the best understandings now, and then be willing to quote unquote dance with it on the night, pun intended, right? Be willing to dance with it on the night, pun intended. Be willing to reassess anything. Don't set anything in stone, even though you have potentially come to conclusions beforehand. Be willing to reassess them as things progress. Choose to breathe a lot and choose not to allow your emotions, especially ones of jealousy or pain, heartbreak, or potentially feeling whatever hurt, to railroad you from stepping up and being empowered in yourself. Understand that the pain of jealousy or potential heartbreak, frustration, emotional pain is a lot of it will be releasing energies from your past, times where you have felt rejected in the past or whatever, or out of control in the past, right? Times where you have allowed your emotions to get you into situations, right? Lustful emotions to get you into situations that have led to your demise in the distant past lifetime, right? All of that gets triggered in these sorts of situations. So there's a lot to dance with, so to speak, in a very sensual way. So in a very, very deep way. I hope I didn't miss anyone's questions. I know I haven't read this I'll just quickly read this from Sister M. You really helped me see that my rebel is how I've connected to pleasure, because when you were saying that stuff about how I work against authority, I felt really good in my body, like proud of me. That's okay. I'm ready to let that go. I choose to develop my connection with my worth innately, not cause how I am good at resistance to what I don't want. Yeah, awesome. Awesome, Em. So yeah, just understanding that you have this template of how your ego defined itself by snubbing the authorities, the doctors, and proving them wrong at the time. That gave you a lot of satisfaction and a lot of pleasure, but ultimately you don't need that anymore. You're beyond defining yourself by someone who just snubs authority. You still are welcome to snub authority, but you don't need to define yourself by that. And so you can let go of that being a go-to way of feeling good about yourself and really allow yourself to feel good about yourself inherently for who you are. And then you don't need to automatically go against authority. So you could start to use accountability perhaps in a more empowered way. At the moment you can't, because your go-to is to snub it. And I'm not saying that, using accountability is definitely something very important for you, because it's not. But any forms of resistance and limitations to using any tools available to us ultimately has to go. So that's what we're working through. Well done, my friends. As per usual, I've got a little over time. Thank you very much for obliging me with that. I will say namaste, Hari Om, God is everywhere, and I will speak to you again this time next week. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns or comments, please feel free to reach out to me. I am here to serve you all. Much, much love. I will speak to you again soon. Bye for now. Bye-bye.